AngelThanatos for GirlGamer.com, and I'm standing here at Paramount E3 2010 with a very important man in cinema history. This is Jack Epps Jr., and he wrote a little movie you might have heard of called Top Gun. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
Paramount Digital Entertainment Games has adapted two major 80s franchises, Top Gun and Days of Thunder. And so we can expect to see these interactive versions of movies from our past that we love. And so they brought you in to actually write the script for this game. How did they approach you for that?
Well, I mean, it was just they knew they were building this out, and then they got in touch with my agent and said, would you like to be involved? And, Top Gun is something that is more than just a script I worked in. It's just sort of part of my life. It just has a life of its own, and sort of like everybody else, I'm just really enthusiastic about it. So the opportunity to get back and work on it and get back with Maverick and Iceman and Goose, it sounded like a good idea. And
so when they approached you, of course, it was just a no-brainer then. And so a big question that I have as well is that when you do write a script or a story plot line for a game, how does that compare to writing, say, a 3-act script or something for a feature-length film?
Well, I mean, this game has like 3 acts. It has a beginning, middle, and end, so it has a structural setup. The difference is that if you're writing a screenplay, you're really usually creating a world. There's a lot of scene work that's being done. You're creating characters, multi-relationships. So in terms of a game, you're doing elements of that that are not as deeply involved, not deeply ingrained, because you're really interspersing the game mechanics with the narrative. But what I see happening is there's more narrative and story coming into gaming, and I think you're going to see, I mean, the lines are sort of, they're a little blurred now. I mean, movies and games, they look a lot alike and they react a lot alike. So I think you're going to see more and more of the same structures and techniques.
And that actually leads me to a question, because as video games become more and more cinematic, and we're seeing more and more of them turn into movies now. That's like the next big thing. It was comic books, and now it's video games. They just bought up the rights to just about everything on the script reports recently, the sales. And so we're going to be seeing a lot of titles. In your classes or in screenwriting classes in general, do you see that we would be teaching students how to write for video games as well, or do you ever venture into that with your students?
Yeah, we have actually, where I teach at the School of Cinematic Arts, and we actually have an interactive gaming division there. So we actually teach a class in writing for games. It's actually taught by Danny Bilson, who's Vice President of Creative at THQ. So, the great thing about the school is we bring people in the business and they teach what's really going on and happening. But, you're still telling a story. You still have to involve people with characters. You still have to have an interesting narrative that pulls you through it. So no matter whether it's gaming or movies, it's the same elements. And I think, the challenges for gaming remains, how do I emotionally involve the audience? How do I get them involved in this thing so it's more than I'm trying to win this, but I'm actually living it. And I think we're getting there. I mean, the imagery I'm seeing here at E3 is phenomenal. It's just so, I'm just in awe of the art direction and the looks and the characters and the worlds. It's phenomenal.
And I have to ask you as well, the music was such a huge part of the Top Gun movie. Was that part of the script? Did they come to you and say, hey, we want this song as part of the movie, or did it just kind of happen?
Well, it sort of happened, but in conceiving the movie and writing it and thinking about it and designing it, it was always meant to play a lot of rock and roll. I mean, with Simpson Bruckheimer, those are the producers. They had done Flashdance. So, and that was actually a time when the movie came out, the soundtracks were a critical part of, in terms of promoting and also the movie experience. You don't only just watch movies or listen to it, you hear them, and it's part of that interaction. And I think it's a testament to Don and Jerry as great producers by creating a really great soundtrack that has, it just transcends the period, so to speak. It's become timeless.
Wow. And for those of you who don't know, he also co-wrote Turner and Hooch. And you wrote, was it solo, Anaconda? Did you write that by yourself, or did you co-wrote that one?
I co-wrote Anaconda and also Legal Eagles and Dick Tracy.
I did love Dick Tracy. I saw that. I was like, Dick Tracy, that's awesome. Great. So do you see yourself writing more for video games after this experience?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's fun. I mean, from a screenwriting point of view, dialogue is fun to write. So there's opportunities to write a lot of dialogue. I like action. I've always liked thinking big, and I think what's great about gaming is it's a big palette. You know, it really is. And as you know, I've got a 65-inch plasma TV at home. It was fun to put this up. And I think as we get the imagery better, it becomes the movie experience. So I think it's a lot of fun. The only thing I'd love to do is I'd love to come in the process sooner. I think that's what we're going to see happening. As narrative comes in, I think, you know, in movies that we understand, bring the writers in early, and I think it's something that gaming will get there. Bring the writers in with the design team so that everyone's working together, which will create just a better narrative in terms of the game, emotional narrative.
You know, I did meet the writer of God of War yesterday, and we were actually discussing that. And so it's very interesting that they are making story king now. Yeah. And like I said, as we're seeing Hollywood and the video games industry kind of holding hands right now, they're seeing the potential of crossing over between franchises, and so they're really making story king. And I can see them bringing in screenwriters for video games because they're bringing, you know, excellent writers over for movies. I'm seeing comic book writers, you know, working on comic book movies, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's really neat to see. You know, now, do you play video games at all?
I don't play a whole bunch. I played early where PC games are very problematic, and so I'm going, I'm a movie guy, so I'm sitting there, I watch you know 1 to 2 movies a day, and so I really do. But this game has gotten me hooked, and they gave me a test version of it past weekend, and you know, I made it difficult for them to get it back. So you know, I'm very much also looking forward to when this comes out, because it's a lot of fun, and you know, it's made me say, I'm getting my PS3, and there's some games I want to buy, and so I think for me this is a great way to jump back into it again.
We may have converted him.
I think you have converted me.
For GirlGamer.com, this is Angel Thanatos. Thank you so much for your time today. Be sure and check out Top Gun for PlayStation Network from Paramount, coming soon.